the worst rap diss tracks of the 2010s. As we've touched on before, hip-hop is a genre that places huge emphasis on technical skill and authenticity, and often, a rapper's real-world grievances are worked out through diss records. And while diss records have given us some of the most iconic moments in the history of hip-hop, nothing is a bigger source of secondhand embarrassment than seeing a rapper try their hardest and ultimately humiliate themselves with a weak diss. It's even worse when a rapper initiates the beef only to find that they can't match up to their opponent. Diss records as a whole have started to become slightly rarer, but the past decade has given us some gems, like Drake's Back to Back and Pusha T's The Story of Adidon. Unfortunately, not everyone is up to par. Whether it's due to poor performance, lack of ammunition, or their target just not being all that interested in the beef, plenty of rappers have made fools of themselves over the last 10 years through poorly thought out feuds. Before we start the video, make sure you click the like button and subscribe to our channel. Number 8, Another One by Remy Ma. The feud between Remy Ma and Nicki Minaj dates all the way back to 2007 after Nicki made a subliminal shot at Remy on the freestyle Dirty Money. However, the feud was put on hold when Remy Ma served 6 years in prison after a New York shooting. When Remy was released, she almost immediately reignited the feud through a subliminal-laced remix of Minaj's Truffle Butter. Minaj fired back in 2 features, leading to Remy Ma dropping Sheether, a vicious diss aimed at Minaj. Audiences actually responded positively to Remy's diss, excited by the prospect of a feud. However, when she released a diss called Another One, the public tide quickly changed. Making several references to Drake's Back to Back, the diss was seen not only as an all-around weaker track, due to Remy adding no new subject matter, but also as a transparent attempt to mimic Drake's strategy for clout. Nicki laid the beef formally to rest with the posse cut No Frauds, with a few strong bars aimed at Remy, accusing her boyfriend of ghostwriting for Remy. Remy might be the only person on this list to actually rap herself out of winning a beef. Number 7, Wanna Know by Meek Mill. Meek Mill initiated his beef with Drake in 2015 after collaborating on the hit song Rico. Feeling that Drake had not done enough promo for his album, Meek went on a Twitter rant, accusing Drake of using a ghostwriter and sending the internet into a frenzy. Drake retaliated by releasing his diss record, Charged Up, a softball of a diss track that was met with lukewarm reception by critics and fans. However, when Meek did not respond over the course of the next 2 days, Drake dropped Back to Back, a scathing record that aimed to systematically dismantle Meek's street credit. After another 3 long days, Meek finally released a response, a diss track titled Wanna Know, focusing almost exclusively on the ghostwriting accusation. Though the diss would have been passable as an intermediate response to Charged Up, it was seen as a lackluster and forced response given how long it took for it to come out. Meek received nearly universal criticism for waiting too long, allowing Drake to release 2 tracks, and failing to contain any new disses beyond the ghostwriting accusations. This was a particularly hard hit for Meek, as he had been pegged as a probable winner for the beef, due to his credit as a better technical rapper. Unfortunately, Drake was deemed the winner of the feud, and Meek Mill was mocked for losing to a softer artist. Number 6, Ghoulish by Lil Wayne. The beef between Young Money and Pusha T is so extensive, it could be the subject of a 30 for 30. When Pusha T dropped Exodus in 2012, it was the most explicit diss to date. In a beef that had been raging since 2001, Pusha called out Young Money, criticizing Birdman for creating a confusing label hierarchy that ultimately hurt the signed artists. Lil Wayne, who was at the time the face of YM, quickly fired back with Ghoulish, but perhaps he should have taken more time. The track has one thing going for it: it wastes no time making itself clear. The opening line is literally F Pusha T and anybody that loves him. Besides this, the track is unfocused, and mainly comprised of vague threats of violence against Pusha. In his most confusing metaphor, Wayne raps, "I'm an alien, I hope you not the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air." This is a reference to Will Smith and his 2 movies, Men in Black and Independence Day, both films in which Smith successfully defeats aliens. The metaphor that Wayne has created weirdly implies that Pusha will ultimately defeat him. Wayne's typical cartoonish metaphors like "too many banana clips, I feel like chimps" don't work well in this track, contrasted by Pusha's more polished, subtle disses on Exodus 23:1. The public agreed, and when Ghoulish dropped, the #1 worldwide trending hashtag on Twitter was literally hashtag things better than Lil Wayne's Pusha diss. Number 5, Making a Murderer Part 1 by Joe Budden. Before he was the host of the #1 rated hip-hop podcast, Joe Budden had an industry-wide reputation as a bitter one-hit wonder. Despite his rebranding as a jovial talk show host, every now and again old Joe peeks from behind the curtain, which is exactly what happened in 2016. After criticizing Drake's album Views, Budden became paranoid that Drizzy was sending subliminal shots at him via Instagram stories, and the tracks No Shopping and 4 p.m. in Calabasas. Though no explicit references are made, Budden interpreted several lines to be about himself. This led to Budden dropping the track Making a Murderer Part 1, a lengthy track with several corny lines including I kilogram without weighing a thing. The track is corny, but fine from a technical standpoint. No one ever debated that Joe can rap. What makes this beef sad is Budden's try-hard attempts to make it a thing. Despite Drake never addressing the diss, aside from a few tweets and statements on stage, Joe would go on to release 2 more tracks, titled Awake and Afraid, both which also went unanswered and featured some questionable lines, including a bizarre compliment about Drake's abs. The entire thing seemed a little desperate and one-sided. Budden would even later admit to dropping Making a Murderer, in part to help draw attention to a single he had out at the time called Flex. Number 4, Sweet by Common. Back in 2011, Common dropped an album called The Dreamer, The Believer, featuring the track Sweet. The track quickly gained attention for what was interpreted to be subliminal shots at Drake, targeting him for being soft, and for singing like he was Frank Sinatra. The shots were puzzling. Common assures his target that, quote, you should never want to go against me, but there's no evidence that Common had reason to believe Drake wanted to go against him in the first place. Furthermore, Common proved hesitant to own up to the diss track, refusing to name his target, and allegedly ducked Drake when he saw him at a concert. Drake retaliated with his verse on the Rick Ross song Stay Scheming, accusing Common of making reaches to move records, and washing his hands of the beef, deeming it not worth his time. Nearly a year after the beef started, when Common released Stay Schemin' Remix, the rapper finally admitted that Sweet was about Drake. After the two met face-to-face at the Grammys, Common went on record saying the beef was squashed, rescinding all of his previous comments on Drake, and speaking publicly about how much more he now respects Drake. It seems kind of odd to create a mountain out of a molehill, only to take back everything and heap praise on your rival. Number 3, Rap Devil by Machine Gun Kelly. When Eminem dropped his surprise album Kamikaze, the rapper returned to form by taking shots at pretty much every relevant pop culture icon, rappers included. On Not Alike, a line aimed at Machine Gun Kelly angered the rapper enough that he dropped Rap Devil, a nearly 5-minute, 4-verse track that takes aim at Eminem for being old, his lackluster recent output, and much more. However, the track gained plenty of attention for a different reason. It seemed to almost be complimentary. Besides a weird fascination with Eminem's beard, MGK spends multiple lines asserting that M is the GOAT, that he's in everybody's, including MGK's, top 10, and humble bragging about M's Oscar win. The track does have some highlights, and could have even been a serious contender to win the beef, had Kelly trimmed the track to a shorter length and removed the compliments. Instead, he supplied Eminem with plenty of material for his own retaliation, Killshot. The track immediately calls out the complimentary tone of Rap Devil, and spends a good amount of time painting a picture of MGK as a jaded stan. Eminem's response is a return to form, pulling few punches about style, sales, and longevity in the game. He even implies P. Diddy, who signed MGK, killed Tupac, a sensitive spot for most of the hip-hop community. Overall, Eminem is widely acknowledged to have won the beef, and since then, the feud has fizzled out. Number 2, Beef by Soulja Boy. Before the turn of the decade, Soulja Boy was best known for revolutionizing the way artists use the internet to distribute their music. However, over the past 10 years, he's become better known for bizarre social media antics and an affinity for beefing with any artist he knows the name of. In 2016, after finishing up on stage, half-hearted feud with actor Shia LaBeouf, Soulja turned his sights to Quavo and the Migos. Allegedly, Quavo distanced himself from Soulja Boy after Soulja made negative remarks about Migos' label mate Lil Yachty. Insulted by this, Soulja Boy released a diss record titled, creatively enough, Beef. The record is consistently bad, and sometimes nearly incoherent. Standout moments include the quote, "I effed Lil Yachty's girl, and he ain't even met her," which makes exactly 0 sense, and continued rambling about how he was the first person to introduce the Migos to Sean Kingston, topped off with an insanely repetitive hook. The entire diss sounds like it was recorded with the same microphone Soulja uses to play Xbox Live. During a Breakfast Club interview, Quavo asserted that he was unbothered by the diss, and did not plan on responding. Number 1. The Invitation by Nick Cannon. A 2019 beef between Eminem and Nick Cannon is the definition of a feud that nobody asked for. But after Cannon brought up the decade-long feud on T.I.'s podcast, Eminem fired off some quick disses on his feature for Love Above with Fat Joe. After an obvious attempt to get Eminem on his show Wild 'N Out, Nick released a diss track called The Invitation. If you didn't know this was a diss track, you might think it was released solely to remind the world that Nick Cannon cannot rap. Nick seems to be doing his best impression of Rick Ross after a hit of Helium, and even claims Eminem reignited the feud, seemingly forgetting he's the one that brought it up. The track was filled with cringy lyrics, from "Eminem is the perfect name cause this blank is a nut," to him going as far as to claim that he's in possession of a tape showing Eminem performing questionable activities in a limo. Nick even accuses M of being soft, apparently forgetting his beginnings as a Nickelodeon child star and career as a primetime TV show host. The track was met with almost universally negative reviews, critically and publicly. Eminem declined to respond, making some passing jabs at Nick on Twitter. Nick followed up with another track, but the public lost interest, and the feud was already rapidly fading. So which of these diss tracks was the worst one? Let me know in the comments section, and before you leave, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to our channel.